It's all in your head. This is a statement that when you're watching this video, I guess you have come across that statement that, cut off the worry, cut off the overthinking. You don't need to overanalyze. You're the one creating these problems in your head. Yeah, there's that aspect of anxiety recovery where you need to cut off the worry. You need to, stop overthinking, stop overanalyzing, like generally adding the second fears. But it's not that anxiety is all in our head. Anxiety is not only mental, but it is physical. It affects our emotional well-being. So it's not all in our head. That's a statement that I wanted to demystify. So in this video, we are going to discuss the physical symptoms of anxiety. Of course, there are various symptoms of anxiety, mental symptoms, emotional symptoms, touch symptoms, skin symptoms. But in this video, I want to discuss the physical symptoms of anxiety, how the physical symptoms manifest, why you are having them, and how the body and mind works, and what you need to do to be able to overcome the physical symptoms. So before we start this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel if you want more value, if you want more long form anxiety videos, if you want to know more about anxiety, how anxiety works, how the body and mind works, and how you can be able to overcome anxiety, then click the subscribe button if you want to get more values from this video. Otherwise, let's get it. Anxiety brings so many physical symptoms, of course, countless physical symptoms. Of course, we can't talk about all of them. I'm going to talk about the main ones, because if you want to talk about the physical symptoms of anxiety, we're going to take the whole day talking about those symptoms. So we're going to talk about the main physical symptoms of anxiety, because when you're struggling with anxiety, whether it's panic disorder, whether it's generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, health anxiety, OCD, eating disorder, any type of anxiety really, you're going to have physical symptoms. So yes, anxiety brings physical symptoms. And when I started struggling with anxiety, I didn't know that, okay, when I went to the hospital, of course, I was diagnosed with anxiety. And I was like, okay, anxiety, I know it's about, anxiety can be about anything. Maybe you have been cheating on your partner, you're gonna have anxiety when he or she finds out. When you see a tiger, when you see a snake, these life-threatening situations, because anxiety is an emotion. It's a healthy emotion that everyone in this world has. You can't survive in this world without anxiety, because how are you going to detect a threat if you don't have anxiety? So everyone in this world has anxiety, because it is a healthy emotion. It helps us in detecting a threat. So when I went to the hospital, I'm having these emotional symptoms, I'm having these mental symptoms, I'm having the physical symptoms, and I'm like describing to my doctor like what I feel, explaining to my psychiatrist what I'm struggling with, and he ends up diagnosing me with anxiety. And I'm like, I'm feeling these physical symptoms. I'm having the nausea, the dizziness, the headaches, I'm struggling with the feelings of unreality, feeling faintish, chest pains, heart palpitations, fatigue, breathlessness, name them. I'm struggling with these physical symptoms. So if you say anxiety, I don't understand. So it is understandable if someone struggling with anxiety doesn't know that it comes with physical symptoms, and you have been running from one hospital to another, seeking reassurance, asking Google, like, what is this? Am I struggling with something else? Is this this? Is this this? It is anxiety. At first, it is normal for people struggling with anxiety to not understand what is happening. You might think that the doctor doesn't know what they're doing, your psychiatrist doesn't know what they're doing. So you run from one hospital to another, from one psychiatrist to another. You Google your symptoms, because you don't understand how anxiety can cause all those symptoms. And I want to reassure you, your doctor knows exactly what is happening. If it would have been something else, they would have known by now, because that's their job. Their job is to know if something is wrong with you, and they diagnose you with it. So it's all anxiety. Anxiety creates physical symptoms. One of the key ways to know, because with anxiety, you're going to have intrusive thoughts. It's what if it's cancer? What if it's stroke? What if I develop a heart attack? What if I'm going crazy? What if I'm losing my mind? And it is, by the time you're watching me, I believe I'm talking to someone who has been to the doctor, ran all tests, is healthy, like you have run all tests and the tests have come out that you're not struggling with something else and you're only struggling with anxiety. That's the person I believe is watching this video. If you want to make sure that what you're struggling with is anxiety, go to the doctor, run all types of tests, do head scan, do a whole body scan. I did a whole body scan just to make sure that what I was struggling with is not anything else apart from anxiety, because anxiety is going to try to convince you that you're struggling. What if it's this? What if it's this? What if it's this? So in order to clear all the doubts, go get tested by a professional. Go get tested by a doctor. So when you are focusing on healing anxiety, when you're focusing on anxiety recovery, when you're focusing on overcoming anxiety, you are sure that you are only struggling with anxiety. Physical symptoms from anxiety occur because When you're in the fight or flight mode, you are bound to have physical symptoms because your body is geared up to fight this, imaginary threat. Remember, you are in the anxiety cycle because your brain believes there's this imaginary threat that you need to fight. And because you have always been reacting in fear, you have always been reacting in panic, now you are in the disordered cycle of anxiety. Now your body is always tensed up. Now you are constantly in the fight or flight. Now your body is always constantly geared up. And if your body is always geared up, ready to fight a threat, be sure you're going to have the physical symptoms of anxiety. The perfect example is when you see a snake, or when you see a tiger, or when you see something that you fear. What are you going to face? You're going to have heart palpitations, you're going to have racing thoughts, you're going to have the intrusive thoughts, you're going to have chest pains. Chest pain is a symptom of stress. You're going to have weak legs. All these symptoms that you're having are symptoms of fear. It's just that this time, the fear is not true. The fear is false. And you are the one who has to teach your brain that really, stop misfiring the alarms because I don't need them. There is no threat here. The brain does not learn through logic. The brain does not learn through, facts. The brain does not learn through affirmations. It does not learn through memes. It learns through your actions. It learns through what it sees. So if you're there reacting in panic, you're having heart palpitations, and now you are reacting in fear, you are reacting in panic, you're sending a wrong signal to the brain that really, I fear these heart palpitations. This heart palpitations is a threat, and therefore you are going to be more geared up because of the stress hormones, the adrenaline, the more cortisol, because of how you have reacted. And a result of these stress hormones is more of the heart palpitations that you don't want, more of the chest pains, more of the weak legs, more of the breathlessness, more of the fatigue, more of the dizziness, more of the fainting. Name them in the comment section. One of the problems that I faced when I was struggling with anxiety, and I don't want any one of you to go through that suckers. Do not constantly seek reassurance about anxiety. Stop constantly seeking reassurance about, is this anxiety? Is this anxiety? You're having this, physical symptom. Is this anxiety? Is this anxiety? That was a trap. And apart from Googling, one of the recipes for disasters is constant reassurance seeking. You're asking this person, okay, are you experiencing this? Are you experiencing this? Is this all anxiety? I've already told you, if you want to clear the doubts, because it is good to clear the doubts. If you want to clear the doubts, go get cleared by a professional. Do all the tests, do the scans in your body, and make sure that you are not dealing with anything else apart from anxiety. That one helps in not seeking reassurance, not asking, is this anxiety? Now what is this? What is this? All those symptoms, you're gonna place them under the anxiety umbrella after getting ruled out by a professional. I'm saying this because people really have a hard time accepting physical symptoms. They're like, they are asking instead of trusting. This particular video, I decided to do it because of the constant questions that I get. Is this anxiety? What is this? Maybe it's cancer. Maybe you're bound to have those thoughts. With anxiety always tends to latch on your worst case scenario. Is this, let's say you're having, chronic heart palpitations. Am I gonna have a heart attack? You're having BPDR. Am I losing my mind? Am I going crazy? The intrusive thoughts, what, I'm an evil person, what am I going crazy? Once you have been ruled out by a professional that nothing is wrong with you, even if you have those thoughts, you're not going to act on them. You only act on them when you don't understand what is happening. That's why I always insist, understand what is happening, understand how the body and mind works, understand how anxiety works, understand why you are having this symptom. Once you understand why all this is happening, it lowers the fear and makes acceptance way more easier. Also, a mistake that I've realized with most anxiety sufferers is they try to solve symptoms one by one. Now they are solving the dizziness, the feeling of faintness, weak legs, shaking, the sweating, the headaches, the migraine. They are solving them one by one. What you need to know is that you need to focus on healing. You need to focus on overcoming anxiety. You need to focus on recovering from anxiety. Once you start recovering from anxiety, the symptoms are going to fall away. You don't need, that's a lot of work. What you're doing is a lot of work. Solving the brain fog alone, solving the dizziness alone, the heart palpitation. No. All these symptoms, they are being brought by anxiety. Once you heal from anxiety, once you focus on recovering, all those symptoms are going to go away. And avoid people who tell you, okay, try magnesium mode, those shit don't work. I don't know about your experience, but those things never worked for me. I tried everything. I tried supplements. I tried, the magnesium that people are talking about. I tried breathing exercises. I tried everything. But literally, nothing was working. Those things don't work. I always tell my clients, the symptoms are not the problem. Your interpretation of the symptoms are the problem. If you interpret the symptoms as dangerous, if you interpret the symptoms as something is wrong with you, that's the problem. Anxious symptoms have never killed anyone. Anxious, yes, they're scary, but not dangerous. Once you understand that, and healing from physical symptoms of anxiety is just like literally next door. Recovery is from within. You don't need to buy, I don't know what, you don't need to invest in what, no. Recovery comes from within. If you send someone telling you, can you buy this, that's someone who is trying to sell you something which won't work in the long run. Focus on long-term freedom, not short-term comfort. Physical symptoms from anxiety are not dangerous. When you focus on healing, when you focus on overcoming anxiety, the physical symptoms also are gonna go away as a consequence consequence. If you've watched up to this point, make sure to like, comment, subscribe and share. If you have anything that you would like me to talk about, comment down in the comment section. Otherwise, let's meet each other on the next video.